Hello and welcome to the Daily Grind here on Latte Firm. Welcome to the show. On today's show, it's about Viktor Gyökeres or Benjamin Šeško. Apparently both want to play for Arsenal, but we have to pick one, anyone. Welcome to the show, and I'm delighted to be joined by my good friend, Colleen. Colleen, welcome. How are you?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Yes. Oh, who's heard of those two strikers, eh? Who's heard of those two forwards? No, I'm great. Thank you so much for having me back on. And it feels good. The transfer window's in a bit of a halt at the minute. We've got the Club World Cup coming up, depending on if anyone's going to watch that. But yeah, all good. And happy Father's Day, as we were just
Thank
discussing,
you.
everyone.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Happy Father's Day to my fellow kings out there. Hope you're having a glorious day. Colleen, obviously, you're dialing in from South America, and I know your stint is coming to an end, and we're looking forward to having you back in London. But the season has come and gone. What's your mood like currently? You talk about the FIFA World Club Cup, you talk about the break in the transfer window, but isn't it nice just to have, no sort of 2-day, 3-day meltdown after results? Are you sort of relaxing at the moment?
Honestly, it feels great. It feels great to just have a bit of a pause. And I feel sorry for the fans whose teams are in the Club World Cup. I mean, it's not really it hasn't got that same vibe yet around it. And it did feel like there has been so much football. And it is also nice that there is a bit of a halt in the transfer window, because I think we're all going to be driving ourselves mad seeing what the other big six have been doing. We've kind of not much has come out about Arsenal yet. So I think it's a good pausing point for us.
It is. It's a nice time to reset. But like you say, the Club World Cup has now kicked off in the early hours of this morning if you're based in the UK. Obviously, you're based in South America. There is a strong contingent going from that region of the world. What are your thoughts of the Club World Cup? Are you brought in? Are you excited?
No, I literally don't care. I literally don't care.
Tell us how
Um,
you really feel.
sorry. I think also it's because of I mean, I'm not too sold on the way they've got the teams in there, and I think for Europe it's been based on European participation, but you haven't really got the two or three top teams there from each league. It just kind of feels like a bit of a farce, really. But maybe it'll build up some momentum, or maybe over the next couple of years. But if I happen to see a game, I happen to see a game. But I could care less. I don't know
Yeah,
how you
well,
feel about it, but
I'm not interested in the football at the early stage. I have to be honest. I think
mm,
there are going to be some really one-sided ties. I think it's too
mhm,
early for football. So, like you, I'm sort of really enjoying this break. I think I probably will have my interest peaked as they get through to the sort of quarterfinals, semi-finals, and obviously final. Pedro of Le Grove yesterday joined me. We did a little deep dive into all the
mhm,
finance involved. I mean, there's a lot of money up for grabs, Colleen. £775 million for as prize money altogether, and the winners, who could be City or Chelsea, will pocket just shy of £100 million. So massive,
mm.
massive repercussions in a positive way for them and their spending power. But yeah, look, I think it's interesting. I don't know what the prerequisites are or the way that teams qualify. I can't lie though, Colleen. If Arsenal were in it, I would want us to
Yeah.
win it.
Oh, yeah,
It is as simple
absolutely.
as that. So, I can't say on the one hand it's a total waste of time, total fast, total sort of
Oh, no,
uh,
I'm as fickle as they come, FK. Absolutely fickle. Absolutely fickle.
I love that. By the way, lots of love for you, Colleen, in the chat. Everyone's wishing everyone a happy Father's Day. Whole Milk's gone one stage further and says, Happy Father's Day to Daddy Arteta. Yeah, look, Mikel's got kids of his own. So happy Father's Day, Mikel. I know you tune in on the sly. Colleen, welcome to the show. We're going to talk about our hunt for a killer, our hunt for a new number 9. The news in the last few days. I mean, look, this has been quite an ongoing saga, hasn't it? Like, we're edging closer, we're assessing, we're moving towards, we're setting to sign, and then there's like no movement for a few days and tumbleweed, and then it just it's like just a cycle at the moment for Arsenal fans. But the two names hot on everybody's lips are, of course, Benjamin Šeško and Viktor Gyökeres, and they seem both quite interested in joining this Arsenal project. Gyökeres apparently has turned down the chance to move to Manchester United, wants to play for Arsenal. Šeško has been in talks with Arsenal for a long time. So it's going to be one of the two. So today we're going to sort of look at both players. We'll look at both profiles. We'll compare playing styles and sort of get your thoughts and get the chat involved in what they think we should do as a football club. Terence Tibbs says, FK, got competition, not the only good-looking bald man. Terence Tibbs, I love seeing you in the chat. And he says hello to everybody. Just let me get distracted by stuff like that. Straight off the bat, Colleen, before we look at the stats, You've obviously seen all of these sorts of rumors. Is there one that you're leaning towards without having done that deep dive into stats and playing style? Like right now, off the cuff, if you have to pick one, what does your instinct say?
Well, I mean, firstly, if we get any closer, if we advance any further, get any closer to them, we could quite literally give them both colonoscopies. How close are we going to get to both of these players? Oh my God. I mean, I was in the Gyökeres camp for a long time, to be honest with you. But in the last couple of days, and I don't know whether I've been influenced because I think it's more realistic that we are probably going to go for Šeško, and especially what our rumored left wing ambitions have been.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I like Gyökeres. I love his style of play, his pressing and his link up play. But I think I've been affected by what I've seen online. I just think Šeško is probably more realistic. I think that's what's going to happen. So I'm trying to wrap my head around that.
Well, chat, let me know as we go through the slides what you guys think and what your take is on this battle. So let's bring it up. So the debate at the moment is that we have a hunt for a new number 9. I think it's commonly accepted, Colleen, that we need a new striker. And this is not necessarily to succeed Kai Havertz. It could be as an option. I'll get your thoughts on that in just a second. We fell painfully short last season. Mikel Merino, the unsung hero, doing a great job for us, covering that position as best as he could. But of course, it wasn't enough for us on any fronts. And I think the club have to learn from that experience that we had. Gabriel Jesus getting injured during the January window and we didn't respond. Kai Havertz then pinging his hamstring shortly after the window shut. And we had 3 or 4 months of real pain up top, not being able to sort of fill in that gap. And you know, being Arsenal, the players are going to be linked every day, all sorts of profiles, whether it's Ollie Watkins, whether it's Ben Šeško, whether it's Viktor Gyökeres, Ekitike. I mean, there's so many players out there that are just going to be, you know, linked to us because the media know exactly how we react. But let's look at these two in particular. So first question off the bat. Do you think our hunt for a number 9, and I'll go through the stats that I brought up on screen shortly, should be a successor, i.e. someone to actually push Kai Havertz down the pecking order, or could it be a partner to Kai Havertz? What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think we kind of need, well, I think what we're looking for is not necessarily to edge Kai out, but someone who can partner him. And as we all know, Mikel loves his versatility. He wants a player that can play in several positions and be very fluid across that front line, or even as a second striker, perhaps. So I think when we look at it that way, I think Gyökeres kind of leans himself more to being a bit more versatile. You know, he can play on the left. He can be a second striker, can be a number 9. Whereas I don't think Šeško has that same. You know, you wouldn't throw him out on the wing. So I also think it's important for us to be able to start to manage having a couple of good players, at least in, you know, in a lot of the important positions, and learn how to balance them, whether it's together or, you know, when Kai's not going for a bit of a slow patch, or if he's out injured and things like that, because we're probably one of the only top teams where, you know, we just have our mold in terms of maybe we have top 11, starting 11, 12, 13, but then after that, the gap is huge. So they should be able to play together, absolutely. But there's nothing wrong with healthy competition as well, if Mikel can see that he can push Kai.
I think Arsenal, the size of club that we are, we should always be looking to raise the ceiling, as the phrase goes, as often as we can. And if it's, you know, pushing fan favorites, and let's not make any sort of mistake about it. Kai Havertz is loved by so many Arsenal fans. We can't really imagine a team without Kai, but we need to be adding that quality that does give him that competition, like you say. And I think there's been a lot of talk, a lot of whispers over the last few weeks about maybe, you know, the sort of tactical setup and how football might change next year, going into a sort of forward 2, to have someone like Šeško or Gyökeres accompany Kai Havertz when you're chasing games, when you're chasing a win right at the death, to have an extra body who can actually play football and put the ball into the back of that is going to be super helpful. I've just brought up the stats of both of these chaps on screen for this season in their domestic competitions. Benjamin Šeško, not quite the prolific goal scorer, but of course does play in the Bundesliga, which is considered significantly tougher than the Primera Division out in Portugal. But 33 games played, 13 goals from the boy, from an expected goals of 9.89, so exceeded that with his goals. Missed 10 big chances and created 5. Viktor Gyökeres played 33 times in the Primera Division, scored 39 goals. had an expected goals of 30.95, which is insane, but has also, like Šeško, exceeded that. Missed 23 big chances. Now, I don't know if you've seen on the socials, there's missed compilations going around of both of these players, and it's quite amusing yet terrifying at the same time. Like, they both miss their fair share of chances. Like, we're not talking prolific killers. Like, when Thierry Henry would go through, 99% of the time you'd be like, yeah, he's going to score this. He's going to score this. Like, same with Haaland, same with Shearer. Like, your top cream of the crop elite centre forwards, when they're in that position to to go for the kill, more often than not they will do it. And I've seen these missed compilations, and they are quite frightening. But Gyökeres, obviously, there 10 assists as well. If we bring up these sort of age profiles, because this is where they're slightly different, right? People think about these two as it's got to be one or the other, but they're very different in terms of their stages of career and what they do. So these, courtesy of the brilliant Canon stats, as you can see on screen now, ladies and gents, boys and girls. I've kept Kai Havertz there on that left-hand side. Benjamin Šeško is just shy of 22 years of age. Viktor Gyökeres, at the time of producing this, was 26 and a half. He is now just turned 27 last week. When you look through the metrics, open play shots per game, so 1.85 open shots per 90 for Kai Havertz, 1.9, very comparable for Šeško, but look at that, 3.5 for Viktor Gyökeres. Now, of course, again, appreciate the fact that we're not weighting these figures for the Portuguese league. Non-penalty goals, Viktor Gyökeres' scoring rate has been phenomenal this season, just shy of 1 a game. Expected goals per shot, as you can see, sort of 6th, 7th line down there, 0.21 for Kai. Has a higher expected goal per shot, Kai Havertz, than both Šeško and Gyökeres, which I found very surprising. And as you keep going down to sort of progressive passes and passing efficiency, not so keen on those, but look at turnover. Turnover, sort of losing possession, misplaced passes. Kai Havertz is very efficient on the ball, whereas Šeško and Gyökeres can be quite wasteful. Gyökeres even more so, and that's what some Sporting Lisbon fans describe as quite a frustrating quality that he's got. In the air, Kai Havertz is a monster, and despite Benjamin Šeško coming in at 6'5", Kai Havertz seems to fare a little bit better. Viktor Gyökeres' strength is not in the air, I think it's fair to say. So when you look at the two sort of like numbers, I guess, side by side, Šeško and Gyökeres, they're obviously very different profile. Do either of the profiles stand out to you, Colleen?
Yeah, I mean, I think with now you're reeling me back in with Gyökeres again, like where I've been the whole for the last season. I mean, his open play shots is nice to see that he's getting a decent. Obviously, as you've already mentioned, you've got the difference in leagues and etc. etc. And it's unfortunate that his aerial wins aren't as high as the other two, because that's our bread and butter a little bit with corners. But you can really see his versatility, but he's a little bit. He shows that Gyökeres shows he's a bit more of a complete player than Šeško, and I think you see that age difference there, where Gyökeres is like 26. He's probably ready now. He's probably can improve a little bit more, but probably not. I don't see much higher level for him. Whereas with Šeško, there is that kind of still a little bit of raw ability there, but that I think can still grow a little bit higher in his play. And we have to remember with Šeško, he's not really that adaptable. He does drop back a little bit. He does like to do a bit of. He's more of a poacher, can do a bit of nice movement. Whereas with Gyökeres, he's a little bit more flexible. He presses a lot, links up a lot, and can go out onto the wings. You're kind of seeing that differentiation in the way they both approach the game. But when you look at those stats, I think, I don't know if you are, but I lean more towards Gyökeres. But I just don't think that's where Arsenal are going to go. But very good stats.
Well, I think it's fair to say that, look, we are, and I've described this many times on a couple of shows recently, we are standing at the front of a buffet line having not eaten for weeks. And we're just having to choose between, chicken and beef. And it's like we're sort of sat there deliberating, pondering when you should just go and feast. I think both of these boys would come into the team, having either of them is better than having obviously just what we've got at the moment. And I think both of them would come in and have an instant impact. I think Benjamin Šeško, people talk about this sort of project style because he's still so young. He's still got so much to learn. He has played in a team not at the high end of the Bundesliga, Sporting Lisbon flying. Arsenal, of course, have done well in the Premier League this season, and Kai Havertz was a big part of that when he was fit. Šeško, much younger, limited game time. Gyökeres sort of modelled about in England, was in England for 4 or 5 years, going out on loan, sort of played time at Coventry, time at Brighton, I think Swindon, I want to say as well. and he's smashing things in Portugal. But like many of you said in the chat, it doesn't really count for the sort of weighting in terms of league quality. Could I ask you, do you think Arsenal have time to invest in a project like Šeško?
Oh, no. No, I don't. Well, I think from the fan perspective, I don't think that we have time. I think the board, and I think what goes on behind the scenes, I don't think they would have. I don't think they would mind investing, saying, okay, we're going to nurture him. He's not the finished article, but he's no slouch at the minute, Šeško. But in the next couple of years, he can really bang for us. So I do think Arsenal behind the scenes generally have been a bit more kept their powder dry a little bit more. But I think from a fan perspective, it's, I think if we don't win a trophy next season and we start talking about the same situation about the number 9, a striker up top, I don't think there's time for a project. And Gyökeres does feel more like that finished article, despite coming from the Portuguese league. Sorry, Portugal, you're taking an absolute flogging from us today. But you know, and there is that fan pressure, but I don't think there's that from the board. I mean, I don't know what goes on from behind the scenes, but I don't think we're on the same wavelength from what does come out from the club. And I think that's what makes me a little bit confused, because I don't know how you've interpreted the reports recently, but I've kind of interpreted it as, if Ornstein's kind of leaning more towards Šeško, and then there's been links with Rodrigo, which suggests that it would probably be Šeško coming in and Rodrigo on the left, which would mean, okay, well, you do get one very, very proven quality player, and you still have someone who's probably a bit more of a project. So I think it all will really depend on who else we bring in, because I think we both agree we cannot just get one forward player. I think we need way more. I think we definitely need 2. So I think this will give us an indication as the type of profile who will also come in to accompany either of the 2 lads. But yeah, it's definitely now. Project now. I don't think many people can wait much longer after being second twice in a row. I mean, we've been making progress. The Champions League is an excellent example, but fans are getting a little bit, I wouldn't say impatient, but antsy around getting some silverware.
Well, no, I hear you, but coming second 3 times in a row. I guess the reason why the Portuguese league is taking a bit of a bashing at the moment is because we've all got the Darwin Núñez trauma. He came in, he's come into Liverpool. He's obviously not been a hit there, but he had some phenomenal numbers in Portugal. And I think there is a case of, if we invest 50, 60, 70 million pounds in Gyökeres, he's got to be the real deal, because it's too much of an opportunity for us to miss. People are freaking out, but Hand of Arsenal is in the house. Hello, Latte Ferb. What's all the fuss about, he says. Tell us, enlighten us. Tell us what's going to happen, man.
Just get both of them. Just get both of them. Make everyone's life easier.
Exactly. Just get both. V Vlad, welcome, says Arsenal Football Club will be around after next season. Wouldn't mind either, but would prefer Šeško personally. Henke Ho says Šeško will come. He will be great for us. Interesting. Let's look at some of the shot maps for both of these players. This is Benjamin Šeško in the Bundesliga. Of course, 13 league goals. You can see the pink dots there. His goals, including 3 strikes from well outside the box. Now, I'm sure you've seen there's clips of his goals going around, and Šeško is a very clean striker of the ball, as is Gyökeres, to be fair. Both have got hammer legs. But you can see Šeško, look, primarily in the box. He's scored a mix of goals with his right foot, left foot, and head. Dominant in the air, 6'5" frame. You can see the image there, courtesy of a photo against Liverpool in the Champions League. He's not a goal machine, but then, of course, Leipzig haven't had as good a season as Lisbon in their domestic leagues. But like you say, he is a project. I think he's got all the raw attributes, Colleen. I also saw on Sky Sports that he would be the second fastest player in the Arsenal squad. He's a very rapid guy, 34, 35 kilometers per hour. Speed is something we miss as well.
No, you're absolutely right. And I just have flashbacks of the days of when Arsenal used to counter just absolutely rapid within 3-4 seconds at the other end, and with the ball in the back of the net. And it's nice to see that he can get some goals from outside the box. I mean, we've already had a taste of it with Declan this season, and a couple of other players like Partey. But I think it's a very good quality to have in your locker. I think the statistic is 90% of shots taken outside of the box don't go in. So it's nice to be able to have that high percentage. And he is a tall lad. He's a big lad, which really suits our set piece and corner routines.
When Nico Yova would have a field day. Taylor, welcome to the show. Says my hamstring wants to cramp just looking at that photo. I mean, it's an incredible still, to be fair. Someone, so many of you have noticed, and we've talked about this in the stats earlier, that Viktor Gyökeres is a shoot on sight machine. Check this out. Courtesy of Opta Analyst, these are his numbers from this season: 39 goals, as we've already talked about, in the Primera Division, overachieving against the next year of 30, 139 shots in 2,800 minutes. But you can see there also a couple of goals from just outside the box, but again, predominantly in the box, and a lot of goals from the penalty spot. Some would say, Colleen, look, stat padding. But at the same time, I have a lot of sympathy because he's in the league that he's in. He can only play the opposition that he plays. And there's been a lot of talk recently around how the Primera Division compares to, League One football in England or a lower level. But the goals don't move. The goals aren't a different size. The net is the net, and he knows where the net is. I mean, I don't think there's much risk, he says, going for Viktor Gyökeres. I think he's got speed. He has power. He obviously knows where the goal is. He's ever present. I don't think he's had too many sort of injury issues. Famous jinx, that is, isn't it? From me. But there's not many downsides to this guy.
No, I mean, and as you say, I mean, he can only play against who he can play against. And I think if he was on 20 league goals, which is not a bad return either, we'd be like, oh, okay, Portuguese league, we've got to take a few away from him there. He's got almost 40 goals.
It's
It's a
wild.
phenomenal output. I don't think it's anything despite the opposition. And we have seen him in Europe. We've seen him against City. He hasn't shied away under the spotlight or under the pressure there either. So I mean, we talk a lot about the league he's in, but you've still got to be able to do it. And I think it's a disservice to him because 39 goals, I mean, come on, that's a lot. I just think with him as well, I think it will be whoever comes in, but I think especially Gyökeres because of his age and his stats, there will be that pressure. It's going to be a big fee, and that will be that pressure to deliver. Now there will be no settling in, going 3-4 games in a row at the beginning of the season without a goal. That won't cut the mustard. So he'll just have to, if he were to come in, to deal with that. But yeah, I mean, look how lucky are we? We've progressed so much in the last decade. We're grumbling over, oh, should we get this forward who scored almost 40 goals, or this young up and coming project declining? They're both declining. United. I mean, it's a great position to be in. But heavy is the head that wears the crown. It's got to be the right one, and fans will be divided if one does not. Whoever we bring in doesn't perform. The nature of business.
No, you're absolutely right. Dan's just shouted out his badass celebration, which, of course, we remember Gabriel Magalhaes did. Now, I don't know if that was tongue-in-cheek or if he knew something at the time, Gabriel. Maybe he's the ITK. But that celebration would be so cold at the Emirates. I mean, the one thing that also Viktor Gyökeres has in his favour is that he's been in England. Now, he was a bit of a hit at Coventry. Playing in the Championship is no joke. As Jay Dime says, welcome to the show. Championship's not easy. So physically, a robust player that could handle the intensity and the tempo and the physicality of playing in England. I'm sure Benjamin Šeško would do just fine with his big frame and his strength. And of course, he's played in the Bundesliga. But I do think that's something that's really quite interesting. And there's also something that I wanted to shout out here. Mike says Gyökeres creates a lot for himself with quick dribbling and quick finishing. I think he is special and he will not need much space to score goals. Now, there's been a lot of criticism of Gyökeres and his goals in terms of he always has a lot of space in behind to run. If you look at a lot of his goal comps, they are in and around the box, really lovely finishes, but a lot of the time he is just running straight through an open space, and people say, well, look, we come up against mid to low blocks like every week. Where's he going to get that? One thing that's been shouted, and I just wanted to bring this up because it's very different to Šeško. Look at his progressive carries. Like Gyökeres loves to start out wide, and he loves to carry the ball, and he runs with the ball at a very, very high speed. Lots of action on the left-hand side. And actually, I wanted to bring something up in this show, but I thought I'd run out of slides. But Coventry, for the 3 years he was there, his heat maps, he was playing as a left wide forward. Yeah. Could he potentially be someone that offers us, it just may be an edge here where Šeško, you see him as that sort of centre forward, maybe playing off the front man. But Gyökeres could also fill in left if we needed to, because Martinelli's our only guy there. And you mentioned Rodrigo, but let's say we dick about with that all summer and don't actually get anywhere. Maybe Gyökeres could be another outlet on that left side. Can you see that maybe?
No, 100%. I see that 100%. And that's why I was becoming a little bit more pessimistic with us getting Gyökeres, because I thought, okay, if there were Rodrigo links, so they were looking at people on the left, it felt a little bit less likely because Šeško's not going out on the wing. He's not going out on the left. He's more of a focal point. He doesn't suit him as much to be out there on the wing. He doesn't play there. So that's why I was kind of leaning towards him. I thought realistically it's not going to happen. But absolutely, if Gyökeres can come in, we 100% will be seeing him out on the left, whether it's to try a new system to accommodate, or because actually Martinelli needs to be pushed a little bit. Then I don't see that not happening. And as you can see, he's progressive. His progressive passes and the way he moves, it's brilliant to see on that left-hand side. But then we find the other question is that, okay, if he does come on the left, we still haven't really addressed a number 9, what everyone's really screaming out for. So that's why I kind of think, I'm a little bit more pessimistic over that deal. But that means I think we will have to bring in someone. There will have to be someone else coming in as well. But I think Arteta loves that versatility. He loves to be able to have a forward line that he can move around up top, especially as it is now, our squad is quite thin. And obviously that I hope will change. But if we're just talking about either or, for that versatility factor, you think, Gyökeres could fit in nicely into our squad.
He could. I mean, look, Vlad's made a really salient point here. We didn't have anyone who hit double figures in the Premier League last season. We didn't. And there were 32 players who finished high. Sorry, 23 players who finished higher than our top goal scorer in the top goal scorer charts in the league, higher than Kai Havertz, and that's just not enough. So if either came in and scored 15 goals, it's a massive boost to Arsenal, and that could be the difference between, finishing 5-10 points behind a rival and actually finishing 2 or 3 points ahead of the rest. Here's a question for us from La Isla Bonita. It says, Colleen, nice to see you again. Thank you for that. FK Colleen, have you discussed or considered Arsenal signing both? I mean, look, I've sort of suggested we've got to pick one of the two, and we're gonna close on that. And I'm gonna do a poll in just a second for the viewers, because there are hundreds of you watching, by the way. Please do like the video, subscribe if you're new, and all that sort of jazz. Get involved in the daily grind. Let me put a slightly different situation to you to sort of answer this question. We know that Rodrigo is someone that we're interested in. We know that we're interested in a wide player. Would you like to sign both Gyökeres and Šeško if it meant we couldn't get a wide player?
Oh, I mean, yeah. I mean, if we couldn't get a wide player, absolutely, I would take who we can get. I mean, realistically, I don't think that's going to happen though. But with that being said, the finances that would be involved for a Rodrigo type player, I mean, how much different would it be to what we're currently looking at? And it does look like at the minute, Gyökeres, if you believe everything that's out there, is starting to get priced out of a move. It seems like this gentleman's agreement doesn't seem like it's being stuck to and whatnot. I mean, I don't know about you. I wouldn't turn my nose up at having both of them come into the Emirates. But I don't think that's realistic. I think we put a big money signing out for one of them, and then we try and do a bit of shrewd business. And when I say shrewd, I don't mean 20 million, but we're talking probably about 80 million layoff for both of them there. But if Rodrigo couldn't come on another profile like that, absolutely. Who am I to say no?
Do you know? The more I think about it now, that was a great question, by the way. Thank you for that. And Jay Dimes is apparently buying her in for Šeško now. I think you're going to see a lot of clubs coming. There's going to be a lot of noise around both of these two. But if we're led to believe that they're both keen to play for Arsenal, with Gyökeres, that sort of ability to play out wide and drive with the ball, and also just to have that depth. Like, I'm not sure Gabriel Jesus is going to play much football for us next season. I love the guy. When he first came, those first 3 months were electric. Do you remember how excited we were about him? But we just can't rely on him physically. And Kai Havertz covers a lot of ground, and he's fantastic at what he does, but he's just not prolific enough. Imagine having like Šeško lining up and then Gyökeres just on the bench, as well as Havertz in the team. And then you could mix and match. Arteta's bringing in Zubimendi. That could be a pivot with Rice in the middle. Maybe give Ødegaard a bit of time off, and you could have, Gyökeres and Šeško up top. Like, the options there would be phenomenal. And that depth, this is what Arne Slot managed to do with Liverpool. Every week, he'd sort of almost rotate his forward three and keep them fit for the duration of the entire season. That's a great question. It's really bold me. Ben, thank you so much for your super chat. I'm not quite sure if you've left a message there. It's greatly appreciated. Please do send another message if that's what that's what you wanted to do. I will do that. Taylor says, I know Arsenal too well to even consider the idea of signing both. I know. And Dan says 4-4-2. Yeah, look, we've talked about it. It could be the way. 4-4-2 could be coming back in the game. If you missed a chat with Clive Palmer in the week, he was on the Daily Grind. He gave thoughts of exactly that. The 4-4-2 will be enjoying somewhat of a renaissance this season. Okay, let me go to the chat the poll in the chat, and I will basically ask everyone what they think. So in closing then, Colleen, from you, now that we've been through profiles, playing style, positions, goals, stats, age, have you changed your mind? Is there one that you're leaning towards a little bit more now?
I mean, how I have two schools of thought. The one that I personally want is Gyökeres. I love the fact that he can play off the left, and that's where I was seeing him before this conversation today. And just generally, I thought we will see him a lot coming, not just centrally, but on the left. That's how I was envisioning him at Arsenal. But so that's who I would want. I think he's more of the finished article. I mean, I think it's a risk worth taking despite the league he's in. And if you look at those stats, absolutely phenomenal. And he plays this sounds maybe a bit redundant, but he reminds me of like the Arsenal way, of like decades gone, in the early 2000s, like quick, fast, athletic. I love it. And that's what I'm craving for. However, that's what I want. What I think is going to happen, just because we've had that Rodrigo link, and it seems like, whether it happens or not, just because that link is there, that leads me to think, okay, we're probably going to go for Šeško, more of that number 9 profile up top, not someone who's going to come off into the wing. But either way, it does look like we're going to be in the market for 2 forwards, whether it's the 2 of the boys mentioned today, one of them and someone else. Let's wait and see. So I want Gyökeres, but I do think it's going to be Šeško.
You make a compelling case. Rich Torrens, thank you again so much for your generous super chat. It's greatly appreciated. It says, as you've just said, Gyökeres does most of his best work off the left, so why not him as the wide left and Šeško up top? I got to be honest, that question that we had just a few moments ago has really thrown me. Like, I know the show was pick one, anyone, and if I had to pick one, I've got to be honest with you guys, I have been a massive Viktor Gyökeres fan for months now. I saw what he did against City. I saw what he did against us. And I know he didn't score against us, but I thought he gave as good as he got. Like if you were to ask Saliba and Gabriel, could you name 3 or 4 forwards that have given you a hard time physically in a game? I thought Gyökeres tried. He gave as good as he got physically, and I thought he was a real menace. And I've got no doubt that Gyökeres would come to the Premier League and score goals. You mentioned it earlier. If he's got 39 goals in one league, even if he comes in and gets 15 to 20, that's a massive help for us. But Šeško, over the last, a bit like you, 2-3 days, I've had a bit of it's not because he's a project. I love the fact that he's 6'5" and he's a menace. And I think it was Gunnerblog you said on the Arscast that he spoke to someone in the game, not linked with Arsenal, who said that he's got all the raw attributes to be the best number 9 in the world in a couple of years' time. And I just feel with all the hype around him and the profile that he's got, if we miss this boat in 2 years' time, I think you and I could be sat here going, do you know what? If only we bought Šeško at the time. Like, I just feel he's got maybe a higher ceiling. That's probably the best way to describe it. But listen, Rich, it's a great shout to have both. Absolutely would be great. And this is another good point. Chance says, gone are the days of finishing games with Henry, Bergkamp, Kanu, Wiltord on the pitch at the same time. How many times last season, Colleen, did we have games where, we dropped from a winning position, and you look at the bench and your heart sank because you've got a couple of goalkeepers, 3 left backs, Marino and Raheem Sterling, maybe a couple of academy players. Like, the number of times we all sort of, looked on with pain. Like, if only we had a striker, if only we had another sort of game winner, game changer. And you know what? If the money is there, go and get both. Go and get both. Like, I want go back to those days, Chan, of like, last 15 minutes, Arsene Wenger would just get 4 forwards on the pitch, just unleash hell.
I mean, if Arteta had that too, because I think a lot of people criticised him for being maybe extremely pragmatic, switching to a back 5 or something in the last 10 minutes of a game. But, he hasn't, to be fair to me, he hasn't had a plethora of options that you go, yeah, that will work out well for us. But we've got to call off old Stan. Got to call off old Stan and say, listen, mate, we need both. If you want us to win the big trophies, got to dip your hand in your purse.
We do indeed. Well, there you go. There's a message. Dip your hand in your purse. Terence Tibb says, Henri, Suka, Bergkamp, Canu. Do you remember? Do you remember those days? Right. I think
Can
we
you
can leave it
believe
there.
it?
Oh, yes. Can you believe it? Listen, I think we can leave it there. This conversation gone for a long time. I hope you guys have enjoyed that, the Daily Grind. Like I say, if you're new to the channel, please do subscribe, get involved in the chat. These are new features that we're going to do. We're just going to follow the news and just bring you whatever Arsenal opinions are. Yes, I said both hand of Arsenal. Let's go. Come on, you've got the connections. Put the message in. Send the smoke signal out. Get Bertie on it. Big Bertie. Come on. Get them both. Get them both. Listen, if anybody wants to follow Colleen, she's available at Colleen Shea. And Colleen, you know, you're back in London, I think, fairly soon. Plans for the summer?
Lord knows, taking
Rest.
it a week at a time. But hope to be back in the next couple of weeks and enjoy what sounds to be a great British summer. Sounds like I'm missing out.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. It's like high 20s today. It's going to be high 30s low 30s by the end of next week. It's going to be super. Well, listen, enjoy the last couple of weeks you've got out in South America. I hope you've really enjoyed yourself out there. I know you've been doing some great things. Look forward to having you back in London. If anybody wants to follow Colleen, she's available at Colleen Shea. Colleen, thank you so much for joining. Really appreciate that. Chat is still so active. Thank you so much for taking part. The poll, by the way, has closed. And I can tell you that 60% of the voters, which is quite reflective of why we should be having this conversation, have gone for Benjamin Šeško. So there are a lot of people who are still undecided. We shall see what happens in the coming days. We'll leave it there. Look after yourselves. Until tomorrow. Bye for now.